Good morning, and welcome to the Northwestern University's 164th Commencement Ceremony. Please welcome members of the classes of 1970, 1971, and 1972 who are celebrating their 50th reunion. Please welcome the class of 2022. Please welcome members of the Northwestern University faculty. Please welcome deans, senior administration, honorary degree recipients and presenters, distinguished secondary school teacher award winners, and trustees of the university. Please welcome the president of the university, Morton Shapiro, and our commencement speaker, Isabel Wilkerson. Please welcome University Chaplain Kristen Glass Perez and Pamela Silas, the Associate Director of the Center for Native American and Indigenous Research, for the land acknowledgement.
Posao meep, mawanaweak, sekate weaki, init iswisian. A good morning to everyone. My traditional name is Sunshine Woman. I just introduced myself. My English name, Pamela Silas. I'm an enrolled member of the Menominee Tribe of Wisconsin and a descendant of the Oneida Tribe of Wisconsin. I'm also a member of the Northwestern family. I work at the Center for Native American and Indigenous Research.
And my name is Kristen Glass Perez, and I am a member of the Leech Lake Ojibwe, or Chippewa tribe in Minnesota. I am also a member of the Northwestern family and serve as university chaplain.
First, we want to give thanks to the Creator of all things for our lives and for this beautiful day and for the safe arrival of all of you gathered here at this time, graduates and the circle around you of peers, friends, family, and teachers, all of those who have traveled your educational journey with you.
Anishinaabe is a collective term that refers to a group of culturally related Indigenous peoples in Canada and the United States who share closely related Algonquin languages, but has specific historic ties to the people of the Council of the Three Fires.
And this whole region was the original homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and the Potawatomi. But it was also home over the years to the Ho-Chunk, the Miami, and the Menominee, along with many other tribes. Great Native leaders have met on these same shores. Native traders bartered on these shores, and many artists shared their stories and their songs here. And this continues to be home to thousands of Indigenous people, home to the oldest urban Indian center in the country. And like my Native American ancestors, you too might have traveled great distances to gather at this very place, this beautiful place by the big water, Lake Michigan. And you've spent years in camp with each other. In making camp, there are so many things that could occur. We had to commit to making camp safe for everyone. We would learn from each other, and we would make new relationships that could last a lifetime. And we would do our part in serving and caring for each other. And we would be mindful of the impact that we had on one another with our words and our actions.
In making camp, we would be mindful of not only the impact that we had on one another, but the impact that we had on our land. We would take all those experiences, new ideas, and new relationships back to our home communities and share, seeing the impact grow exponentially. In Anishinaabe history, the 7 values that were gifted to the Anishinaabe are love, respect, truth, honesty, bravery, humility, and wisdom. As we gather today for Northwestern University Commencement, what a gift it is to be rooted in this land, these peoples, these languages, and these values, even as we are called to be open to the ways that they challenge and teach us about what it means to be in community.
So as you graduate today and you break camp with one another, acknowledge those new relationships that you made. Acknowledge all that you received from this place and from each other. Return safely home and be generous with your stories and share your skills and knowledge that you gained here. Be good stewards of the land on whatever lands that you call home. And in that action, you will honor the peoples whose original homelands that we gather on.
Caitlin B. Curtis, a member of the Potawatomi Nation, writes, "When the wind blows, we imagine she is erasing every injustice, sweeping misdoings from the east to the west, making room for something new, a more whole world. Instead, she is sowing seeds across landscapes, seeds that tomorrow will become the beauty that restores us. Instead, she is whispering for us to hold on, to keep going, to water those seeds, because one day they will show us the way home." There are times for endings, and there are times for beginnings. Now is one of those times. We honor where we have come from and where we are going. On this day of commencement, may we acknowledge and receive deeply the gift of the elders, friends, relatives, and ancestors, and honor their roles in our journey. May we find new ways to make camp and places to recognize the seeds that are still growing, that show us our place in the story of all of us.
And with that, we say, Wewanin Katanin Mani Kako. Thank you, I say, for everything. Aho.
Please welcome Nora Wolf, a 2022 master's candidate in the Henry and Lee Beanan School of Music, to sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Boy, that was beautiful, wasn't it? Boy, I wish I could sing like that. Wish I could sing at all. Good morning and welcome to the 164th commencement ceremony of Northwestern University. Greetings to all of you, students, families, friends, and distinguished guests. We are delighted to have you join us as we gather from all over the world for this wonderful occasion. Congratulations to all of you. I'm proud to recognize your extraordinary accomplishments, and I hope you will remain in close touch with your extended Northwestern family. I want to specifically mention one group of graduates, those who represent the first in their families to earn a college degree. I hope you and your loved ones take special pride in what you have achieved. I also want to acknowledge our 350th reunion classes, the classes of 1970, 71, and 72. Like today's graduates, you came of age during a time of upheaval. You showed deep concern for the world around you, and you worked so hard to improve it. 50th reunion. Commencement marks the conclusion of the university academic year, and two of our professional schools have already completed their graduation ceremonies, the Feinberg School of Medicine and the Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. Their graduates will be listed in the commencement program, and we congratulate them as well. And today, for the 12th time, we honor recipients of the Northwestern University Distinguished Secondary School Teacher Award. This year's seniors were invited to nominate high school teachers who had transformative impacts on their lives. In selecting the awardees, a committee reviewed nomination essays, teaching portfolios, and letters of recommendation. I asked you just to reflect for a minute on the teachers you had before you came to Northwestern who changed your lives. The 2022 award winners are, you can stand up each time, Chris Buckner of Ole Valley High School in Ole, Pennsylvania. Lydia Ortiz of Northside College Prep here in Chicago. Shantae Reed of De La Salle High School in Minneapolis. David Ross of West High School in Madison, Wisconsin. And Nilda Villalta of National Cathedral School in Washington, D.C. We are pleased to recognize these outstanding educators. You can learn more about each of them on the commencement website. I thank them from the bottom of my heart for their contribution to this senior class and for sharing their magnificent talents and inspiring us with so many of your greatness and all the people you've affected and inspired and motivated over your distinguished careers. So one of the nicest aspects of commencement is to be able to watch our graduates share moments with faculty and staff who have done so much to make their Northwestern experience productive and rewarding. Will members of the Northwestern faculty and staff please stand to be recognized? It has also been a great joy to observe heartwarming family celebrations. Not a single graduate would be here today without the support and encouragement of so many of you in the audience. Would the parents and step-parents of our graduates please stand to be recognized? And as they do, I asked our students to stand up, turn around, and give them the applause they so richly deserve. Would the grandparents please join them in standing? Grandparents. How about the siblings? Any spouses and children? Aunts and uncles? Cousins? other family members I can't think of, and of course, friends. Please be seated. That was fun, though, wasn't it? So finally, I extend my profound gratitude to the Commencement Committee, Facilities and Operations, our Northwestern staff volunteers, and the crew members who set us up so well today for the celebration of our 2022 graduates. It is now my pleasure to welcome Lanny Martin, Chair of our Board of Trustees. Lanny.
Thank you, President Shapiro. And it is also my privilege and pleasure to welcome our graduates, their families, and their friends, and to wish you all safety and good health during this challenging time. Those receiving their degrees today are a special group who have worked hard, learned much, and will now look forward to the many opportunities to use the knowledge gained at Northwestern to enhance their communities in which they live and work. We are here today to welcome all of our graduates as alumni of Northwestern University, so it is appropriate that our next speaker is my friend Larry Irving, trustee and president of the Northwestern Alumni Association.
Thank you, Lanny. Hello, class of 2022. My name is Larry Irving. I'm a 1976 graduate of the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. I'm the president of your Northwestern Alumni Association. It's my honor, my privilege and my honor to welcome you to the Northwestern alumni community. Let me begin by congratulating the class of 1972, who are joining us on the 50th anniversary of their graduation. And it's my pleasure to welcome back the class of 1970 and 71, whose golden anniversary celebrations were postponed until this year. It's hard for me to believe that it's been 50 years since I first arrived on the Evanston campus. Northwestern's been an integral part of my life every day since. It's not just that I met my wife, Leslie Wiley, a 1979 graduate of the McCormick School of Engineering at Northwestern. It's not just the lifelong friendships that I made during my time here. It's that Northwestern and its alumni have factored into everything I've done since I left this campus. When I was a staffer on Capitol Hill, I was privileged to be asked to join the Clinton administration because of the recommendation of a Northwestern alum, Dick Gephardt, who was then the House Majority Leader. Throughout my career in telecommunications and technology policy, I've been blessed to have the friendship, guidance, and mentorship of two Northwestern graduates and legendary public servants, Newton Minow, chairman of the Federal Communications Commission under President John F. Kennedy, and later chairman of the Public Broadcasting Service, PBS, and Richard Wiley, chairman of the Federal Communications Commission under President Ronald Reagan. It's because of their influence on my life and my career and the values that I learned from them that in December, I was honored to become just the second Northwestern alum to chair the PBS Board of Directors. As great a school as Northwestern was when I was here in the 1970s, it's a better school today. The faculty are more renowned, the campuses and facilities are better, the student population is smarter and more diverse, and Lord knows the athletics are better than during my era. Those improvements happened in part because alumni cared. They volunteered, they spoke up, they contributed. And you're now a member of a global, collaborative, and innovative community of more than 260,000 alumni. Our common bond, particularly the bond you have shared with your classmates, is what empowers us to stay engaged with each other through every stage of life. So class of 2022, my message is simple. Please stay connected with Northwestern and with each other. Get involved with the alumni community, both in your local area and around the world. Stay humble, but have impact wherever your path leads you. And let me conclude by quoting the great philosopher and former NBA legend, the late Kobe Bryant. The most important thing is how your career moves and touches those around you, and how it touches the next generation. That's what our Alumni Association is all about, embracing those around us today and serving the next generations. As you continue your journey, we hope your Northwestern connection continues to spark your personal growth and feed lifelong curiosity. Thank you for your time, your attention. Congratulations, and go Cats!
Beautifully said, Larry, as always. As we celebrate the achievements of our graduates today and welcome them as continuing members of the Northwestern family, we also recognize faculty for whom this is their final year of full-time service to the university. The Board of Trustees, on the recommendation of the schools and with the approval of the provost, designates emeritus members of the faculty. This year, the Board of Trustees has recognized 69 such members of the faculty. They will be listed in the Commencement program, and you can learn more about each of them on the Commencement website. Together, they have contributed over 22 centuries of service to our students and to the university. As scholars, they have helped transform their disciplines. Their impact upon the countless students with whom they have worked is beyond measure. A number of those newly appointed emeriti are here today. Please join me in recognizing the emeriti faculty for their long and distinguished service. Each year at Commencement, the university recognizes a number of individuals of exceptional accomplishment with honorary degrees. Honorary degrees play an important role in the history of a university, for a university proclaims its values through those it chooses to honor. These degrees are awarded on the recommendation of the Faculty Senate and with the approval of the university's Board of Trustees. I ask that Provost Haggerty introduce these distinguished individuals.
Mr. President, Life Trustee and former Board Chair William A. Osborne now presents for the honored degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, J. Landis Martin. You have served your alma mater with distinction as the Board of Trustees Chair during particularly challenging times. You have been a steadfast and generous leader across a wide range of sectors. You have long championed the arts, and our soccer and lacrosse teams proudly play in the Lanny and Sharon Martin Stadium. We are delighted to recognize your many years of illustrious service.
I admit you, Lanny Martin, to the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters with all the honors and privileges appertaining thereto.
Mr. President, Professor Elizabeth Gerber now presents for the honorary degree of Doctor of Science, Judith Olson. Your path-breaking investigations in the field of human-computer interaction have produced major contributions at both the theoretical and applied levels. Following your graduation from Northwestern, you went on to produce work that helped shape interface design for today's websites and mobile apps. Your service has had a profound effect on national policy. You have long been an inspiring role model, mentor, and advocate for women in your field.
Good job, Liz. I admit you, Judy Olson, to the degree of Doctor of Science with all the honors and privileges appertaining thereto.
Mr. President, Professor Sheila Betty now presents for the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws, Eva Jefferson Patterson. For more than 4 decades, you have campaigned for civil rights with passion, courage, and tenacity. Your advocacy work is a model of teaching, research, and writing for all proponents of social change. A beacon for social, racial, and civic justice, you have fostered diversity, equity, and inclusion across the nation, bringing tremendous credit to your alma mater. We thank you for all you've done to better society.
I admit you, Eva Jefferson Patterson, to the degree of Doctor of Laws with all the honors and privileges appertaining thereto.
Mr. Pre-
Her classmates.
Mr. President, Professor Alex Kotlowitz now presents for the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, Isabel Wilkerson. You are an impassioned voice for demonstrating how history can help us understand ourselves, our country, and our current era of upheaval. You have captivated us with the universal human story of migration and reinvention. By exploring the unrecognized hierarchies that have divided us as a nation, you've always helped guide us towards transcending them. We are grateful for all you have done to enlighten our world.
I admit you, Isabel Wilkerson, to the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters with all the honors and privileges appertaining thereto. I now welcome Prunef Baskir, a member of the great class of 2022, to introduce our commencement speaker.
It's Pranav Bhaskar. Good morning, everybody, and to the class of 2022. This is our great American story. At this incredible institution, laureled professors taught us in buildings that look like castles. We passed neatly trimmed lawns and a glimmering lake, brushing shoulders with the children of movie stars and money. It's a fact, whether or not you like to admit it, that in our times here, we were surrounded by this casual elitism, immersed in its glamour and the power of an exorbitantly wealthy institution. But nevertheless, all of us, regardless of background, got the same message when we got here, that we make up an elite cadre of students who are this country's best and brightest, meritocracy's chosen ones. The idea of our own exceptionalism was hammered into us. We were told and retold from the moment we got here that our Northwestern peers would go on to write laws, invent technological breakthroughs, that we would change the course of history. I think it would be silly and downright depressing if I got up here and told you that same old hackneyed story again. So today, I'm going to tell you about a history that never got written. A clan secret, snuffed by a lineage of family patriarchs and then slowly eroded by time. It's the kind of story perhaps too small for the archivist, too quotidian for the historian, too fruitless for the politician, but that small, quotidian, fruitless story is how I got here. To this stage, graduating from the kind of institution generations of my family could just dream about. In other words, I'm here because of a quiet injustice, and because decades ago, a dream died. Before I continue, please let me explain. Technically, the task of my remarks today are to introduce this year's commencement speaker. Isabel Wilkerson. You should know her for being a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author whose stories drip with richness. But more specifically, Wilkerson was awarded the prize in 1994 for her narrative writing while serving as the Chicago bureau chief of the New York Times. That made her the first Black woman in the history of American journalism to win the prize, and the first African American to win in individual reporting. In 2016, President Barack Obama awarded Wilkerson the National Humanities Medal for championing the stories of an unsung history. So let me tell you about one of the most unsung histories I know, but to do that, we'll need to go back to the beginning. 1960s southern India, when poverty beat down on my family like the oppressive sun. My grandmother's dream was to be an economist. And when Baba was 18, things were falling into place. Academically, she was a blazing force to be reckoned with. Based on her grades, she, in an era when women were just being allowed to enter the hallowed halls of Indian higher education, had just won gold medal for best cumulative scores in her university's economics program. Here it was, her shining exit ticket from a cycle of generational poverty. She wanted to serve in the Indian Administrative Service, but her father had different plans. He barred her from taking the entrance exam, so Baba graduated college at 19 in June, but not 3 months later, by September, she was married off. By 21, she had her first child, and just like that, Janaki Vishwanathan, my grandmother, the little girl who wanted to transform a fledgling country's hobbled economy, became a housewife. In her book, Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents, Wilkerson writes this: "The hierarchy of caste is not about feelings or morality. It's about power. Which groups have it and which do not. My Baba did not have power, but I have never seen strength so strong, fortitude so steely than in my grandmother's eyes. So I don't tell this story without a reason. To me, my grandmother's history is elemental to how I got here. And, in fact, I'd wager to say that many of us here, immigrants, students of color, first generation and low income students, have similar narratives about the dreams that had to die and the grand visions that had to be squashed so we could stand here today. And here's the thing. I can't say I know all of your stories or that I even know all of you, but maybe someone gave up on a dream so you could graduate from Northwestern University. Which brings me to my point. America likes to tell us a pretty story. You can do anything here, you can become anyone you want to, and when you succeed, that success is distinctly yours, the product of your individual merit. But here, I see a through line between my grandmother's story and the kinds that Wilkerson tells. They dispel a great American story that is, in fact, a great American myth. They teach us that our exceptionalism is not just our own. We are exceptional, but it's because of every quiet injustice, every dashed hope, every moment of strife, and every dead dream, but most importantly, every moment of love our ancestors invested into a generation they had not even met yet. So here's how I'll finish. In her book, The Warmth of Our Other Sons, Wilkerson writes this: She writes that America is made up of people who came from someplace else. And she continues that America is what it is because people came from someplace else. My grandmother came from a village in the south of India, but today she's in the audience, so Baba, I hope you're proud of me. Telling your story is the only way I can think of introducing a speaker like today's. So fellow graduates, it's been a real honor. I hope you'll join me in welcoming this year's commencement speaker, storyteller Isabel Wilkerson, to the stage.
Wow, what a speech. Thank you so very much. Good morning, everyone. I love Chicagoland so much that every time I speak here, I feel it's like a homecoming. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to President Shapiro, to Provost Haggerty, and the Board of Trustees for this profound honor to speak to the class of 2022, and thank you for bringing me home. Congratulations to every parent, grandparent, sibling, and loved one gathered here to cheer on the graduates this morning, and to the class of 2022 for all that you have overcome. Give yourselves a hand for making it to this day. Like the members of this class, I might not be standing here if it were not for Chicagoland. It was here that I had the honor of serving as Chicago Bureau Chief of the New York Times. It was here that I won the Pulitzer Prize. It was here that I began working on a book that would change my life and change the way that many people see our country's history. This city, this area means so very much to me. It seemed like an impossible task to tell the story of 6 million people who defected the Jim Crow South, who sought political asylum within the borders of their own country over the course of 6 decades of the 20th century and reshaped American culture. It took me 15 years, so long that I often say that if this book were a human being, it would be in high school and dating. That's how long it took me to write it. It took me so long that by the time I finished it, I remember delightedly telling a group of friends that I'd finally turned the book in. And one of them said, "What book?" They'd long since given up on ever seeing it come out, and that is how long it took me. I think about what I had to go through, what I went through working on what would become The Warmth of Other Suns, and then I think about what you have been through as a class, what we have been through as a country, and I'm here to say that we are proof that we, in fact, can do what might seem at the start impossible. Think about what you've survived in your time at Northwestern. Most of you arrived on the campus as freshmen in the before times in the fall of 2018. Little could any of us have known what was to come your sophomore year. You persevered through uncertainties of a global pandemic, the political upheavals of our era, the ever-present threats to our planet, and worked toward and held fast your dreams. I read every senior reflection that was sent to me, and one of you wrote that you still mourn the loss year and a half of your campus experience, but that you treasured every moment all the more and noticed, quote, a special increase in compassion felt from my peers and professors and staff, unquote. Another of you wrote that up until the fall of 2021, the campus felt, quote, almost like a body missing its soul, unquote. I cheer you on as I grieve what you've lost and what might have been, but you've learned far more than what can be contained on any syllabus. You learned that you were stronger than you imagined and more resilient than you might have ever known. In my case, I think of the turnstiles I had to cross to finish the book that got its start here in this area. Before I had even begun, before I had written a single syllable or found my protagonist, some folks tried to discourage me. I remember telling some people what I was working on, that I was in search of senior citizens who had escaped the Jim Crow South from World War I until the 1970s. And a person said to me, "Oh, you'll never find anyone from World War I." So you know what that meant. It meant that precisely because they doubted me, it became my mission to find someone from World War I, if only because these people believed I couldn't do it. Never let anyone tell you what is possible. How dare anyone tell you what you won't be able to do before you've even tried? You define what is possible with the gifts that you've been given. Please banish the phrase imposter syndrome. However far your talents take you, that is exactly where you belong. And so, of course, you know I found someone from World War I. Walter Gowdy had been a teenage soldier in the war and migrated to Chicago from Mississippi after he was discharged. He turned 100 while I was spending time with him hearing his life story. I decided I wanted to get him a birthday card, and I actually found a card that said, "Happy 100th." Talk about optimism. He was one of the more than 1,200 people that I talked to when auditioned to be a protagonist in the book. I went to churches, senior centers, Mississippi clubs on the South Side. There was a Greenwood, Mississippi club. There was a Greenville, Mississippi club. There was a Newton, Mississippi club, a Brookhaven, Mississippi club. And if you were in the Greenwood club, you didn't go to the Brookhaven club. So I had to go to all of them. I eventually met one of the wisest and most beautiful people I've ever had the honor of knowing. Ida Mae Brandon Gladney had been a sharecropper's wife who was terrible at picking cotton. I love the way she described that. And whose family had fled Mississippi after a cousin had been beaten nearly to death over something that he had not done. Getting to know her was one of the great honors of my life. She was a model of composure and tranquility and strength. I will never forget driving her to Milwaukee for some important business that she had to attend to after the death of her sister. We needed to get there before the banks closed, but we ran into a blinding gully washer of horizontal rain on Lakeshore Drive. Hydroplaning and unable to see the cars around me, I had to pull over. I was worried because we had no time to waste. Ida Mae Gladney sat there in the passenger seat, serene and unbothered, and adjusted her scarf. She said, "Now, we don't have a thing to do with God's business. Let's just wait till he's finished." She was not being passive. She was certain. She had a conviction that all would be well, and it was. We made it in time, as she knew we would. We will need that sense of resolve and certainty, that belief in our convictions now more than ever. Here we are having to come to terms with the consequences of our history, of our divisions, of hierarchy and caste in the era in which we live. As a country, we say that we value life, and yet we are singular and alone in the developed world in the number of guns and gun deaths in our country. We are singular and alone in the developed world in gun-related suicides. We are outliers in the developed world in maternal death rates. We stand apart from our peer nations in infant mortality rates. We lag our peer nations in perhaps the most meaningful measure of the well-being of any flourishing society, and that is our lower life expectancy compared to other wealthy nations, meaning life itself. We are having to come to terms with the fact that the United States, the richest nation and most technologically advanced nation in the world, leads the world in the grimmest of distinctions, and that is that the American death toll from COVID-19 has surpassed 1 million people, meaning that more people have died from COVID-19 in the United States than any other nation on earth. And when it comes to COVID cases, the US again leads the world with more than 80 million cases, millions more than the nation with the second highest outbreak, India. The numbers in the United States are not in line with our peer nations, but rather with the developing world. How is it that two very, very different countries, the oldest democracy and the largest democracy, are being stricken with these numbers? One country has the world's oldest caste system, and the other has a less recognized one. A caste system, through its social controls and pillars of caste, embeds and foments division. It programs people into believing that they have no stake in the well-being of those that they have been told are beneath them, those that they have been told are unworthy, undeserving. It makes for a less magnanimous society, a built-in us versus them distance between groups. Caste is not a word often applied to the United States, but it was Dr. Martin Luther King who came to the realization of the relevance of this ancient concept to understanding our country when he made a historic trip to India in the winter of 1959. He'd been inspired by the nonviolent protest philosophy of Mohandas K. Gandhi. While he was there, he visited a high school with students whose families had been known then as untouchables, now known as Dalits. These are the people who were assigned at the very bottom of the Indian hierarchy. The principal at that school made the introduction when Dr. King arrived. He said, "Young people, I wish to introduce you to a fellow untouchable from the United States of America." When Dr. King heard that, he was floored. He had not expected to hear that term applied to him. He was in fact peeved to be seen in that way. But then he began to think about it. He thought about what at that very moment was 20 million Black people that he was leading who were at that very moment being excluded from the body politic, excluded from being able to vote, excluded from entire occupations, excluded as to where they could live or go to school, and that their efforts to be recognized as citizens had been met with tremendous hostility, resentment, and in fact violence. And he said to himself, "I am an untouchable, and every Black person in the United States is an untouchable too." Dr. King came to the realization that of the connection between this ancient concept and our country, because those who know best what a caste system was, those who knew best what it was because they were at the very bottom of that caste system, were instantly recognized caste when they saw it. They knew who fit where, and they connected their system of hierarchy to our own. And here we are decades later, still facing the unfathomable erosion of the basic rights of major groups in our country. We are witnessing threats to a half-century of protections of women's fundamental freedom over their bodies. We are approaching a time in which women could face imprisonment for the most private and painful decision any woman might ever have to make. We are witnessing the erosion of the voting rights that Dr. King fought and died for. We have witnessed terror attacks on Jews in Pittsburgh, Latinos in El Paso, Asian American women in Atlanta, LGBTQ people in Orlando, and just weeks ago, African Americans again, this time in Buffalo, New York, followed within days by the horrific slaughter of 19 children and 2 teachers in Uvalde, Texas. We are in a time of peril. We are in a state of emergency. We are in the fight for our lives as democracy and long-cherished ideals unravel before us, as the unimaginable becomes a normal feature of our days. There is no time for infighting, no time for tribalism and self-centered egotism or internal division. We need a clear-eyed focus on the threats to our democracy. We have all been unwittingly enlisted into a fight we did not wish to join. We might ask, why now? Why us? I would ask, why not now, and why not us? The forces we are facing have been building for decades, centuries even. The universe has placed all of us alive today in a world that demands whatever we collectively can bring to fix what we have inherited. We were born for this moment, whether we wish to be or not. We alive today are tasked with having to find a way to explain to succeeding generations how is it that we, in our time, could see something that most human beings never see unless they're on the battlefield. And that is to see a human being killed before our very eyes in real time. George Floyd, 9 minutes and 29 seconds. No one to help him, no one to save him, his life drained from him, his humanity stripped from him, and over what? Over the presumption that he had supposedly attempted to pass a counterfeit $20 bill. This was an infraction that we learned at the trial of his assailant was not even an arrestable offense. It was an infraction that warranted a citation and a court date, which means George Floyd should be alive today. We alive today are tasked with having to find a way to explain to succeeding generations how is it that a mob of insurrectionists could break into the citadel of democracy itself. How in our era, on January 6, 2021, we saw a Confederate flag inside the United States Capitol. We alive today have to explain to succeeding generations how is it that a rioter in 2021 could deliver the Confederate flag farther than Robert E. Lee himself. Our era calls for a sober and clear-eyed assessment of what we are confronting as a nation. As it stands, the United States is facing a crisis of identity unlike any before. The country is headed toward an inversion of its demographics with its powerful majority expected to be outnumbered by people not of European descent within 2 decades. This is unknown territory for everyone in the hierarchy, an ethnic distribution that could potentially look closer to that of South Africa than to what Americans have grown accustomed to. As we have witnessed, anticipatory fear has already surfaced. It is a danger to the species and to the planet to have this depth of unexamined grievance and discontent in the most powerful nation in the world. This will be a test of the cherished ideals of majority rule, the moral and legal framework for America since its founding. Will the United States adhere to its belief in majority rule if the majority does not look as it has throughout history? This will be the chance for America either to further entrench its inequalities or to choose to lead the world as the innovative nation that we have perceived ourselves to be. We have already suffered as a country far more than we needed to or more than anyone should be expected to. If we have learned anything from COVID, it's that an invisible organism without a brain managed to cause upheaval across the planet and overtake a smarter species because it does not care about color or nationality or immigrant status or gender or sexual orientation or national borders or passports. COVID sees all humans for what we actually are, one interconnected and interdependent species. COVID sees all humans as fundamentally the same. It will infect anyone that it has access to long enough. It sees what we have in common if humans don't see it themselves. We are all in this together, and it is time we started acting like it. Thank you. Thank you. I wasn't finished. I'm almost finished. Thank you, though. Thank you. The circumstances in which we find ourselves require us to step out of our comfort zone and to stand up for what we believe in. Our era has enlisted all of us who believe in justice and in the beauty of this planet to rise to this moment, force us to become unwitting advocates of science, of history, of knowledge itself, and the meaning of democracy. The circumstances of our era call upon us to heed the words and actions of possibly the smartest man who ever lived, Albert Einstein. He escaped Nazi Germany only to become deeply grieved by the racial inequities he saw in his new adopted land. He used his privilege to stand up against injustice, to speak out against it at every turn. He joined the NAACP. He advocated on behalf of marginalized people, particularly African Americans, with whom he made common cause. I was so moved by his humanitarian ideals that I chose his words as the epigraph to my book, Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents. Einstein said, "If the majority knew of the root of this evil, then the road to its cure would not be long. It will be up to every single one of us, but particularly the prime beneficiaries of our country's 400-year-old social order, to make this a fairer, safer, and more equitable nation. And I know that we are closer to this goal, and our future is brighter now that you are bringing your gifts to the world." So I want to leave you with the words of Richard Wright, who journeyed to Chicago from Mississippi in 1927 at the age of 19, facing uncertainties as are you, at that milestone in his own life. He wrote these words as a whisper, as a prayer to anyone at a turning point. He wrote, "I was leaving the South to fling myself into the unknown. I was taking a part of the South to transplant in alien soil, to see if it could grow differently, if it could drink of new and cool rains, bend in strange winds, respond to the warmth of other suns, and perhaps, just perhaps, to bloom. May you bloom in both darkness and in light, and may God bless you, class of 2022, as you go forth to a world that awaits you. Congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Beautiful job. Thank you, Isabel, for those inspiring words. Degrees in course will now be conferred. Mr. Martin, the Charter of Northwestern University provides that degrees will be conferred only on the authority of the Board of the Trustees, of which you are the chair. Assembled here are the candidates with whom the several faculties of the university have recommended for degrees. I ask the pleasure of the board in regard to these candidates.
President Shapiro, the trustees of the university have undertaken to provide an academic environment whereby all students may pursue their education in stimulating and intellectual surroundings. How well we have succeeded will be told in the lives of those who graduate today. It is with great confidence in them and with good wishes for their future that the Board of Trustees has approved the recommendation of the various faculties as to these candidates and hereby authorizes you as president of the university to confer upon them degrees for which they have qualified and recommended.
Will the doctoral candidates from the School of Communication, the Henry and Lee Beanan School of Music, and the Graduate School all please rise? And would their deans, E. Patrick Johnson, Tony Marie Montgomery, and Kelly Mayo please rise as well? Northwestern University now grants to you the degrees for which you have been recommended. To this degree, I do now admit you with all the rights, privileges, and obligations appertaining thereto, and I welcome you to the Fellowship of Scholars. Yeah. Please be seated. Will the candidates for master's degrees from the Graduate School, the School of Professional Studies, the Beanan School of Music, the School of Education and Social Policy, the McCormick School of Engineering and Applied Science, the School of Communication, the Kellogg School of Management, and the Medill School of Journalism, Media, Integrated Marketing, and Communications all please rise? There they are. Woo! All the master's students. And with their deans, Kelly Mayo, Tom Gibbons, Tony Marie Montgomery, Dan McAdams, Julio Otino, E. Patrick Johnson, Francesca Cornelli, and Charles Whitaker. Please join them in standing. Northwestern University now grants to you the degrees for which you have been recommended. To this degree, I do now admit you with all the rights, privileges, and obligations appertaining thereto. Master's recipients, please be seated. Go, Catherine. Before awarding undergraduate degrees, any undergrads here? I think there's a handful. Yeah. We welcome another representative from the great undergraduate class of 2022, Elizabeth Sperti. I hope I got that one right. Sperti, right? I've been practicing.
Claim your education. These are the words I had in a perpetually visible sticky note on my laptop for the last 4 years because I never wanted to forget them. They are the words of poet and well-known feminist Adrienne Rich, delivered in a convocation speech at Douglas College in 1977. She said, "You cannot afford to think of being here to receive an education. You will do much better to think of being here to claim one." When I first heard the suggestion to claim my education, it was in one of the first classes I took at Northwestern. The professor incorporated it into his syllabus as a few words of wisdom, and I remember scribbling them in my notebook. Her point was that students ought to approach their education actively, as something over which they exercise their agency, not the other way around. To my fellow graduates and their loved ones, to all the faculty and staff members, to the honorary degree holders, and all those that are here today because Northwestern means something to you, I offer my warmest welcome. Without you, claiming our education wouldn't mean anything at all. Now, I would like to tell you that for the last 4 years, I claimed my education perfectly and all the time. That I never cut corners on a reading, or slept through an alarm, or skipped a club meeting because I just didn't feel like going. But that would be a lie, and you all know it. So instead, I will tell you the truth, which is that I internalized this message as best as I could, and that I believe it fundamentally shaped the experience I had here for the better. There has been so much to claim on this campus, from all the classes we fit into the quarter system, to the rich community created by our student organizations, and just as importantly, in the relationships with one another that have most intimately shaped our Northwestern experience. However, there is one thing I think we could all agree nobody wanted to claim, and that was the spring of 2020. The sticky note on my laptop began to feel like a remnant of my blissfully ignorant past self rather than an uplifting note of encouragement. How could we claim online classes? All of the events that were canceled that we had been looking forward to for months. The separation from our dearest friends. Although none of us could have predicted it, the pandemic was woven into our Northwestern story. It happened, whether we decided to claim it or not. While COVID-19 remains a part of our lives, we had a chance that the class of 2020 and 2021 did not. To return, to reclaim, and we did. We've reclaimed meeting friends in Norbucks, admiring the towering beauty of Deering, and walking up and down Sheridan Road in the freezing flurries of snow. Okay, maybe we've struggled to reclaim that. But ultimately, what this return has amounted to is a unique and overpowering appreciation for one another, knowing what it feels like to be broken apart. Without our families, friends, professors, and staff members who tirelessly claimed a role as our supporters, none of us would have made it here. When I think of graduation, the equally terrifying and thrilling portal that it is, I find myself taking refuge in poetry, especially 3 stanzas from Mary Oliver's poem, Flare. The poem is not the world. It isn't even the first page of the world. But the poem wants to flower like a flower. It knows that much. It wants to open itself like the door of a little temple so that you might step inside and be cooled and refreshed, and less yourself than part of everything. We too are still on the first page of the world, waiting to be less ourselves than part of everything. All we have to do now is turn it over and claim the rest of our lives. Congratulations, class of 2022, and go Cats.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Will our bachelor's candidates from the Judd A. and Marjorie Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences please rise along with their dean, Adrian Randolph? Let's hear it for Weinberg. Come on, give it up. Please remain standing. Will the bachelor's candidates from the School of Professional Studies please rise as well, along with their dean, Tom Gibbons. Let's hear it for the School of Professional Studies. Will the bachelor's candidates from the Beanan School of Music please join them in rising, along with their dean, Tony Marie Montgomery. Let's hear it for Beanan. They enliven our lives. Will the bachelor's candidates from the School of Education and Social Policy please rise along with their dean, Dan McAdams. Small but mighty, go CESP! Will the bachelor's candidates from the McCormick School of Engineering and Applied Science please rise along with their dean, Julio Tino? McCormick! Will the bachelor's candidates from the School of Communication please rise along with their dean, E. Patrick Johnson? School of Communication. Will the bachelor's candidates from the Medill School of Journalism, Media, Integrated Marketing, Communication please rise along with their dean, Charles Whitaker? Medill! And will the bachelor's candidates from Northwestern University in Qatar please rise along with Provost Kathleen Haggerty, standing in for their dean, Marwan Creddy? NUQ! Here's the big moment. You get your degree. Northwestern University now grants to all of you the degrees for which you have been recommended. To those degrees, I do now admit you with all the rights, privileges, and obligations appertaining thereto. Let's hear it for our magnificent undergraduates. Can all be seated. We got that done. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this momentous occasion, and congratulations again to all of this year's graduates. Please welcome C. Mason Hooley, a student from the Beanan School of Music.
Hail to alma mater, we will sing thy praise forever. All thy sons and daughters pledge thee victory and honor. Alma mater, praise be thine. May thy name forever shine. Hail to purple, hail to white, hail to thee, Northwestern.
Please be seated. As the ceremony comes to a close, please remain seated for the faculty and student recessional. Thank you for being here, and congratulations once again